All right, it is.
Are we live?
It's Friday, April 3rd. Well, we're close to live. There's a couple of second delay while we get going, but the broadcast is going. We're sending content out. Apologies for last week.
So you believe it or not, it's 10:29 a.m. last Friday, and we're like, all right, let's do this. And then all of a sudden, Doug disappears from the broadcast. It's 10:29, mind you. And so Doug's internet went out for like a number of days.
It did. I got to give credit where credit is due. Xfinity came out and fixed it. And so I have complained over the years about my cable provider at occasional, but they came out and they were responsive. They did not have to come in the house. It was all outside stuff. And just given the sheer mass of endpoints connected, signal strength matters more than it ever had. I'm at the end of this long chain, and they came out and they checked the neighborhood houses and fixed things. And I am grateful would be the only word I have to describe. So, I was very.
I saw a new Maslow's hierarchy, and it has Wi-Fi at the bottom now. So.
Well, yeah, it's probably all right. So I have call quality dashboard, analytics, geo analytics, all sorts of teams analytics going on. What do you got this week?
Oh boy, I have what should I say, cornucopia, a potpourri of just a lot of different things.
You got a fun news announcement. We're going to do that first, then we're going to dig into the call quality dashboard, the Power BI version of it, the web-only version of it, and some stats I got from a real-world customer. You know, we've been talking for the longest time about the network performance guidance for teams about not tromboning. So we got some live data anonymized that came from a customer before and after they disabled audio tromboning.
Okay.
So split tunneling, activating split tunneling appropriately. And that makes a huge difference for the performance of your voice environment. We're going to be able to see a live call quality dashboard that was anonymized but contributed as a customer for other people to learn from. So we're going to talk about the data visualization, the custom data visualization, the geographic data visualizations, and the out-of-the-box data visualizations, so you can troubleshoot what the hell's going on with your calls that are out there. So if you're in the mood for some call quality, stay tuned.
I think we were going to spend just like maybe a minute here. Like, I don't want to spend too long.
Let's talk about this video. You're in an Inception-like manner. What you're watching is the broadcast of the broadcast of the rebroadcast of Todd and Doug. And
all the way down.
So this is Todd sharing his desktop to me over Skype Consumer. Yeah. And he's sharing the producer view of this broadcast from his side, which is why you see the little lags and delays. But we wanted to point out was some of the importance around the network stuff. So Todd, do you mind?
There we go.
So if you go into and you're producing a live event, you're going to go ahead and see like the estimated network bandwidth, the particular camera resolutions, video presentation stuff. This is sometimes stuff we don't always talk about or share, but you will notice a lot of differences in what's going on based on the amount of motion behind the person. Way to cough into your arm, right? There's the stuff.
I hope you'll actually.
What's that?
I hope I was muted when I coughed.
Well, you were, but you did the proper gesture. Like you weren't into the hand. I'm just saying, proper technique illustrated from St. Louis. Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, you'll see the network fluctuation and the rest of those things happen, and you can go get the network analytics report. So sometimes we give you views that are live as to what's going on, as to what's happening and what's the estimated send bandwidth and everything else that's coming on. And remember, a lot of this stuff uses under the covers H264 SVC. So for those who don't know, it uses this group of pages and delta changes. So the more dynamic and more changing. So if you have like a ceiling fan in the background, you're killing yourself because it has to try and interpret those images and then send them. And obviously there's upscales and downscales and all sorts of stuff going on. But so we're going to talk a lot about call quality in the latter half. We just want to show you the producer view even indicates how we doing from latency to service and everything else. And so the quality you're receiving will be highly dependent on how good those numbers are, many of which are outside of Todd's and my control, but not outside of our observation.
And I do want to say,
maybe outside of our control.
I definitely appreciate that Teams is limiting me to 50 megabits up, so that's nice because that would kill me. But anyway.
All right, so your content. It's time for your.
I also have to say I really miss my multi-mon because now I'm about to minimize my screens here. Whoops, too much minimization, and now I can't see you. So hopefully everything is going well.
Yeah, we're good.
I have no
we're all good.
All right. Yep. As you can see by the number of tabs I have quite a few things here to cover. So first, maybe I should start with the second tab here. RPA UI flows in Power Automate is GA already. Isn't that amazing? That was so fast.
Yeah.
So, this is a really good overview of the, if you haven't looked at it yet, now's the time. Kind of looking at attended, unattended RPA, web, Windows applications. Really good time to kind of get going and look at this. It's GA, which is we've kind of think it's at a point where people can start really using this for solutions that make sense for them. One of the things we're adding out of the gate here is some error handling and some control logic. So for example, in error handling, like let's say you have a brittle application that doesn't always like to take the right click or the left click or the mouse click or the space bar. You can now put in some error handling into here so that you can make your UI flows more robust. And in addition to that, what you can do to react to that is use control flow like parallel paths or switch cases or conditions, things like that. So again, this is going to be, it's still a relatively new solution, right? Obviously, but you're going to start to seeing more maturation over the next year, 2 years, and forever thereafter. So definitely check it out. I think it's an exciting addition to our portfolio to bring this to the masses. And like I said, I think one of the things that I did a tweet last night that got a lot of attention around. I put together a podcasting solution with all serverless for my daughter in less than an hour, using like Logic apps and things like that. And that's one of the things that makes this so powerful as well, is being able to fall back. I forget how they put it in here. Cliffless. There's no cliff, right, that you're going to fall off of, because you can always fall back. No cliffs developer automation with Azure. So being able to use functions and Logic apps, which is no code.
I will tell you, because I'm as a director of a center, I see all the requests coming in. The number of people who have put in engagements in the last probably 3 to 4 weeks while this has been going on for replatforming for Elasticity around serverless is definitely a thing. I'm just saying, like, I don't know how, but you get to see trends pop across the United States. You talk to other directors and at moments and times, and everyone is now thinking about Elasticity in a way that just wasn't a priority before. And we've been preaching that mantra for a long time, but now it like anything else, everyone has priorities, and those priorities have shifted.
Totally.
And it's natural that they have shifted. And that's why we're talking call quality.
It was a little bit of a joke. Hopefully it's not too soon. But it was basically what's driving your digital transformation efforts, and the first two choices were like CTO, CMO, and then COVID, right? Which is I think going to be true for a lot of people. This is a forcing function for them to really look at digital transformation at large.
Well, digital transformation is about your ambitions, right?
Yeah.
Your strategy in many ways, and your tactics need to be reflective. But right now, tactics have been reprioritized. The grand plan, it ain't what it was, and that's why we're talking about different stuff. All right, fire away.
Cool. All right, so I want to make sure I have a lot of things, but if I don't get to cover them all, I want to make sure to cover this one, because this one is a big deal that was announced a couple weeks ago. So announcing the read-write XMLA endpoints for Power BI Premium public preview. So that might sound like the most arcane. What does that even mean? If you've never heard of XMLA, that might not sound interesting or important. It's a big deal for maturation of Power BI, and I think one of the most exciting things to come to the service in a long time. XMLA has actually been around for a very long time. It's been around in analysis services is about to have its 20th birthday, which is just insane. And XMLA is the protocol that Microsoft developed and we put in the I don't know what the license was, but we basically put it out there for other people to use as well, and other people have adopted it. It's a way for tooling to talk to cubes and data models. And what that enables, not only like data querying and things like that, but also administrative tools. So you'll be able to use all the different tools that Microsoft and the community develops, and this is just a small list here, to interact with your data sets in Power BI. So why is that important? So you'll be able to connect using SQL Server Profiler to do troubleshooting on performance and things like that. You'll be able to use the deployment wizard. So being able to actually put a real nice DevOps, like ironclad enterprise BI DevOps that people have been doing on-prem for a while, but now being able to do it's awesome. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So all these tools just light up automatically, including, so what else? The tabular editor. So here's why that's important. That's a community developed tool. And why that's important is there are actually capabilities of Power BI datasets that you've never been able to use because Power BI Desktop doesn't have a UI to do them with. So for example, things like perspectives, giving what a perspective is if you have a big Uber model, a big Uber data set, being able to say, all right, this is what people from marketing want to see, this subset of the fields. This is what people from finance want to see. You can now do that with things like tabular editor. Translations, right? So if you have a global audience and you want to translate for several different languages, you can now do that. Being able to organize your measures into display folders, things like that. This opens up a whole new set of capabilities there.
We're probably going to run a couple minutes long today, but my eye went to DAC Studio because it was the first thing you ever taught me. And today we're going to return to the first project I ever worked on with you. Oh, like even the same data sets and everything else, right? Like we're going to be talking about today, because I wanted to, the first time I ever met Todd on a real work, I had gotten into the Skype for Business, call quality, SQL modeling, and everything else. And I had determined call quality differential between internal networks and external networks. And I had found this location of public IP addresses, and I wanted to find bad ISPs for voice. Remember? Like you do remember. I had created, how should we say this? An improperly architected DAX expression that essentially resulted in infinite looping. And Todd was like, yeah, you can't do that. Like you need to look at the data differently. And DAC Studio was what cracked open immediately my flaw in logic around how to approach the data. Because essentially I was scanning the database for every individual row. So it would hit like 2 billion for every query in the call. That's not ever going to come back. I mean, so anyway, some of these tools are things that you've shown me over the years are extremely valuable. So
so this is super. This is just I am so thrilled. There are a couple big hit Power BI features that have come recently and are coming still that are massive, but this one is one of the biggest in the product. So pretty excited about that. I'm just going to cover more. You got what I'm saying. But to hand it, make sure you have enough time. The general availability of query diagnostics in Power BI Desktop, which is super. I was just actually using this yesterday. And by the way, I've been working on, and if any of you have deployed the COVID scenarios for the health bot, I'm working on an analytics solution for that. That should be out in the public domain by next week. So I was actually using this yesterday to troubleshoot some of the queries over to Application Insights. So this is if you haven't looked at the diagnostics tools, so you see how your queries are running and to get some information about each step and performance and those kinds of things, it's a really awesome tool. And they even suggest actually it generates what else but another query that's just data that then you can visualize with something like the decomp tree. So really cool solution here. Two more things. I'm going to hand it over to you, Doug. So let's talk about virtual training for a minute. The paginated reports in a day is a new thing. We've had dashboard in a day for some time, which I'll talk about in a second. But the paginated reports in a day training is now available for free online, which is pretty exciting. So if you are an SSRS person from a background, or you need more paginated or pixel perfect reporting inside your Power BI environment, this is some great content to upskill. And by the way, like I'm not in the habit of kind of doing shout outs and things like that aren't ours, but did you see that Pluralsight opened up their entire catalog for the entire month of April for everyone?
For everyone.
I gotta just give them a shout out because that is phenomenal. So Aaron Scott, I mean that's amazing.
It is amazing. I love the things people are doing. You could name that happening across entertainment, consumer, but in our space for substantive education, that's a killer resource.
No,
I don't mind us giving a shout out to good people. No, good works are happening no matter where they're coming from, right?
Yeah.
Somebody was talking the other day about a network issue one of our competitors was having on one of their offerings, and they're like, that must make you guys happy. I'm like, it does not. People are trying to use that tool.
No.
Like we're trying to help each other right now. Now it's not a time to compete.
Even in times that we're not like this, we all live in glass houses also, right?
Yeah, don't throw a stone. It's you tomorrow, right? Yeah, like compete on your merits, not on environmental issues. But but anyway, so no, I'm never happy about any of that stuff. So I don't mind praising people who are doing good works because there's amazing stories happening, and I love how
People are jumping in.
People are jumping in. Yeah.
Yeah. So Paginated reports in a day, online, free. Check it out. It'll be in the links. Don't pay attention to this URL. I have a short link for this that'll be in the links. But obviously, dashboard in a days, which going on throughout the country all the time, have pretty much all gone virtual. And so check out the link for a dashboard in a day event near you, or available in a time zone near you.
I would strongly encourage people to do this. I would redo it. I was thinking about hitting it myself because the tool has changed enough where it might be time for me to go, there's a better way to do how I learned. If you have gap time, professional development, you're gonna come out the other side of this and it's gonna be insane.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the work we all do is not gonna go anywhere. It's just gonna stack. So upskilling right now, if you have the time.
I told my kids this is literally a once in a lifetime opportunity. I mean, look, I know that sounds weird and maybe a little Pollyanna, and it probably is a little bit Pollyanna, but I mean, it's still an opportunity to upskill and to work on these things. It's pretty unique. Last thing, I promise. Power Platform Online happened. Amazing attendance and engagement. Go check it out. All the sessions are available. Again, it'll be in the links. I'm going to hand it over to you, Doug. I went
25,000 live attendees.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, let's go look at the stats real quick. 9 hours, 18 sessions, 25,000 live attendees, 48,000 views in 48 hours. Pretty amazing. And of course, yeah. I'm assuming I don't think they put in here like what this was compared to last year. I'm assuming it was more. So anyway, cool. Well, I'll hand it over to you, sir.
All right. So I wanted to bring up, we're talking call quality for this week, right? And there was an announcement, we covered it as an announcement a couple weeks ago, but they were like, hey, announcing the preview for the Power BI call quality connector powered by the call quality data. And I thought it would be good to review that call quality data. And then this week they showed off the mapping of external locations. So first, let's talk about the connector, and then we're going to review it live for a couple of seconds and show that. So there is a download for how to do that. Now, in order to deploy one of these things, there is a file that you toss in, and I prepped that and actually did that step. And so if you look here, you can see that here's a folder, Power BI desktop. There's a custom connectors folder, right?
Yep.
And then you've got, all I did was drop in that one component, the Microsoft Call Quality PQX, right? I mean, that was it. And I started Power BI, and then I got a new connector. Under Get Data, you'll see this Microsoft Call Quality beta. Now, the instructions here are a little bit wrong, only in one sense. Once you get logged in, then there's a next step, and after you visualize the data is when you get the direct connectivity. So where it says you show the entire data with no visualizations, I got this prompt after that. So these two steps, I believe, are actually reversed, but who cares, right? When you get the prompt for data connectivity, it's super important you choose direct query. Because if you chose something wrong, you have to go uninstall that connector and clear that reg value and do that. So don't, it's still in preview, so don't do that wrong. Direct query, wait for that prompt. When you see it, do it. Hypothetically, other people might have clicked the wrong thing. I would never, but others might encounter that problem. Yeah, exactly. So and then you can build queries using it. So we're going to show it live, but first I want to show the actual CQD. So I'm going to hop over, and I'm signed into the Technology Center's demo environments.
Okay.
That for it. And this is the call quality dashboard. Now, how you get here, if you remember, is you just come into the Teams Admin Center, and there's a link for the call quality dashboard. Now, there's also the user level drill down on user call analytics. So I hopped over to call quality dashboard. When you go out to the call quality dashboard, first thing you have to do is sign in. So you can see I'm signed into the OneMTC environment. And you have a whole variety of reports you can look at. Overall call quality, the daily trends, everything else that's going on top of it. Now, here is lesson number one. There's an insane number of reports that are built on top of this thing. So you can go ahead and look at different areas and where you're at. Up here is the report list. Wow. You've got summary, location enhance, all the rest of the stuff. Now, the reason we talk about these location enhance, this is where it's important to have classified your building locations as IP subnets. And there's a whole definition file you can load in. But right now, we're mostly concerned about most of our people are remote. So that's why the geo data becomes so important, because we're going to have to identify and view people's homes as if they are virtual buildings. Yes?
Yep.
And the buildings are run by these ISPs that we don't really control. So that's why I said we can't always control them, but we can get visibility as to who's having bad. So we can tell someone, you should split your call. You should call in and do your screen share. Like you may have to do split devicing because your internet isn't good enough. And sometimes people just don't know, or maybe you can spot a pocket of a bad ISP or a bad network condition on top of it. Now, earlier this week, I told you we had a live anonymized one. And so this was shared with us.
Oh boy.
This week. Now, I want to show you that this is an example of looking at the call quality dashboard, seeing all of these red, okay? That is a huge number of calls that are experiencing terrible performance. So red is bad, okay? And the number of calls supported and everything else on top of it. So then the customer implemented split tunneling and check out the delta.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Okay, so this is why we say, first, the lesson around split tunneling. You should never be tromboning all of your voice traffic from your clients back through your VPN, out your connection around. People should be going straight from, it's all encrypted and secured and double authenticated if you have MFA turned on. That's all already done. So there's no need to re-secure the security again. If we're compliant, we're compliant. If we're not, then you shouldn't be using it. So the point is, like, we've been given lessons on split tunnel, but then people go, well, how do I find out where I have bad spots and everything else? So there's a tremendous amount of valuable data. This one's the help desk report, where you can essentially drill in and look at all the individual users and what's going on with individual sessions for on top of it. So you can drill down and see exactly what's going on. The amount of data and components and details that you get on top of this stuff is absolutely insane. If you have not looked at the data model for this stuff in a long time, you should. So there's just a crazy amount of stuff that we track. What devices were used, what networks they were on, the latency at every level between hops and everything else, the MOS scoring on a per segment basis. There's all this data. And you do have the ability to go look at a user and see all that user's details as well. So I can go look at Todd and Todd's experiences, or I can come into these reports and look for organizational things and trends there. So I have both ways that I can approach looking at this data. But the one thing I know about this is I'm only going to be able to look at buildings and people. I don't understand your org structure at Microsoft, nor should I. But you have that data inside of other things like Azure Active Directory domain services, things Power BI can talk to. Yep. So I want to know, like, what is the call quality for my executives? I want to go ahead and click, like, how are they doing? What is the call quality for my field salespeople? They may be distributed all over the place, but you want to have that business level view of the data. There's no better place for that than Power BI.
I agree.
Right? Because you can build your own views. And so that's why we were so excited about this new ability to come in and do this. Now, so this, and I'm going to, I don't know if I put control on it. It's good enough to see the idea behind it.
I can see it.
So this is the actual call quality Power BI out of the box, where I just loaded in from those templates that existed on top of it. And I think I'll pull up there. It comes with a whole bunch of out of the box templates that you can open up once you've done this data connector, so you can bring them in. So all I did was bring in and say, hey, here's the user details. So if you're like, I want to look at, Teams for Windows quality or anything else, so you get that full Power BI drill through for quality detail, who's doing it, what's going on from the users. You do get, if you filled it out with that building definition reports, you get that building level detail on top of things. So you can see the individual sites and locations. Now, this is way more important for when you're quote unquote in the office versus out, right? So you can still see we have all the generic subnets that are around there. And these all represent the different locations around the United States for the MTC. So like 10.109.50, I happen to know that's my subnet in Minneapolis. So we have not blown out that building definition file. And the reason I wanted to tell you should is because I came in here last week and I was like, oh man, like I'm one of the contributors here. So I've been building up the different subnet files and getting it going. So then I could see Minneapolis, New York, Atlanta, St. Louis, right? I can see you all. We had not done that homework. And so the data looks a little more nerdy than it otherwise could. But once you have that data in here, you can go ahead, you get all that stuff. I mean, just look at all the options for data analysis you have over on the right-hand side. Every one of those things is something you can establish and analyze and troubleshoot. It just
so remember I talked about display folders and those things that you can put in Power BI now.
Yeah.
This is like a good opportunity for that.
Yeah, but look at this. Video poor due to video local format frame loss. So if you're having video problems, like now you can do custom visualizations on top of it. But the power, no pun intended, of Power BI is the ability to bring your other data together. You may already have an IP address definition database somewhere that has all your subnets. And if you don't, this is where, and this was the first project you and I ever worked on together. I had bought IP2 locations, geographic database. And so I will set this one up this week and record how to do it because I am super enthusiastic about this. But once you've got that, and again, the building data file is called out in here to say you should have one of those. Clearly, I had not finished that homework yet for where it's at. But once you put in the call quality dashboard, you can go to IP2 location, and I have a pro subscription to them. And Connie Welsh and I from the Teams team did the first ever internal presentation on how to do geo-based ISP-driven call quality based on the work you and I did together. And we released that stuff out to the open source community like probably 5 years ago on Skype for Business on-prem. Well, now all that data is just built into a clickable connector. You do that, you log in, you get all that data. You don't have, remember all the exports I had to do to import that data and to get access to it, and all the SQL
views.
Kids
these days have it so easy, Doug.
No, I know, but you don't have to do any of that. You just you download that file, you make a folder, you log in. All the hard work I did is now a click and a folder, which is beautiful. Because awesome. So few people wanted to go through all the steps it took to acquire and build those models. And then they basically say, hey, look, what you get is you get a zip file of essentially the bit definition subnet masks, right? And they actually teach you, and this is how, remember doing this?
Yes. Oh like my God.
The whole, yes. I know, right? So I saw this and I'm like, I have to show this to Todd, right? Because he's just going to fall over. Todd and I were simply assembling through logic a subnet mask driven representation of that address, right?
Yep.
So then you're essentially getting column A turned into IP ranges. So then you've got this CSV file, and Todd's probably going back to this hole where we sat there over a couple of lunches, and figured this out. You're going to then bring that into your model. And essentially, after all that work, what you'll be able to do is get an actual ISP, including like if you wanted to put on your own call quality filters, everything else. I mean, you can now say, I'm sorry, your service provider is currently or as a trend is not good. So you need to work differently to accommodate that.
And we have data to show you. Right?
And we have
data.
Actionable.
It's actionable.
That's why I said I can't always have control, but I can always have visibility. Every time someone comes in, whether they're migrating, deploying, using, no matter what it is, it's always when I ask them, well, how visible is that to you? What kind of visibility do you have? And people are like, they want to migrate their data to SharePoint or whatever it is. I'm like, well, what's out there? People are like, I don't know. Like, well, what's its classification? I'm not sure. What's its quality? I don't know. So if you don't know, you cannot make accurate decisions. You're guessing. And all around the MTC are these big no guessing signs, right? So this, for me, if you cannot tell I am as enthusiastic about this as I am about security, it lets you know what the real world experience is across devices, microphones, arrays. Are they using their laptop? Are they actually using their headset? Like, well, you can find out what the problem really is. My old business partner, John, once was complaining about call quality, and we used the data at the time to bust that he was essentially at the end of a dock at his cabin, like hopping from one thing to another on this Wi-Fi in the Yellow River in Wisconsin. And we're like,
dude,
just no, like, are you kidding me?
Stop.
So we made him at the shed run a cord out because he had electrical down by the lake and put another access point in with RG, at the time they didn't have hot points. We put another access point down there and he had a dock access point, and then it was all beautiful. But we said we would prefer a headset still, just for quality's sake. So then you have all this data. You see, you got the out of the box reports, which will show you conclusionary things like the one we got from the customer who said, oh my gosh, it's fairly evident to me the difference, right?
That's a very cool story.
Yeah, and that is just using the raw data. Now, if you say, I still have problems, this lets you refine that down to who and where by business unit, because if you added the Office 365 content pack in to this solution, which has the Azure AD, some of the Azure AD data elements, you would get, if you're populating them or synchronizing them, you would get department, office location. So hey, how are my New York employees, New York-based employees doing, and where are they currently working from? Like, that's mappable with this data, with nothing other than what you've shown on top of it. That is an insanely insightful thing. You could also take that IP geo data. You could look at the authentication data from Azure AD, which also you can get to from another content pack. And you can start saying, where are my people currently logging in from? How dispersed are my employees, right? So you have those kind of things that are very interesting data that you can gather from this stuff. So anyway, I will hop off my high horse and say, I think this is extremely valuable. It's so easy to deploy. Even a non-Power BI person can do it. I got instant access to the data I'm used to seeing in a highly friendly manner, and they had like 100 different sample reports I could use right away. So
I do agree that a non-Power BI person, but you can't. You really can't call yourself that anymore with a straight face. You're a Power BI person at this point.
All right, fair.
Yeah.
But I didn't use any advanced anything.
I get it. Yeah.
To get this right, like if you sat through half of dashboard in a day, you could build amazing with this.
Totally agree. Yep.
And
so back to that. Go look for the virtual dashboard of the day in the links, and scale up.
The only other thing I want to, and so I'm going to put this aside. No, there's no security this week. Can you believe it? I did an entire thing without a security lecture. I'm not even going to end with one. There was an interesting announcement that you and I were talking about whether we should cover, and we're over. But the last one would be, if you have not seen the announcements for the new personal versions and small business versions of Office Microsoft 365, go check those out. And there's more interesting announcements coming in that space. So you should go check that. And the other thing I want to talk about, it got buried in it, but the billion Windows 10 announcement that hit last week.
Oh, we didn't touch that, did we? Yes.
No.
Yes.
Well, we
awesome.
couldn't because our internet went down. So mine. All right. Well, that was it for a flash price.
Well, that's a huge dude. A billion people. Yes, it was. I think a lot of people were like, "Well, it was later than you said," but that's fine. Whatever. A billion people use Windows 10 on a monthly basis or daily basis. I don't remember what.
I don't remember what it was, but it's a pretty active use population.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
and for the most part, I mean, just total anecdotal. I follow a lot of developers on Twitter, a lot of security people on Twitter. I'd say 80% of my Twitter that I follow is security and developers. People love Windows these days. People are migrating to Windows to do development with things like WSL, and I'm
telling you, VS and VS Code on Win 10 is a pretty killer development platform.
It's ridiculous.
And
I'm literally like writing code literally on Linux in Windows. That's pretty cool. So
yeah. All right. Yep. Well, we'll be back next week with more forward-looking stuff. But I think if you have not seen this content pack and played with it, even though it's in preview, it's just read data. They have that article has a really good cover on what kind of calculations and measures are currently not supported because of the direct query stuff. So they have a list of these things won't work. Don't try. And none of them are things I think you're really going to need, or you could come up with DACs to do them yourself if you needed to. But again, this is a zero extract of the data. It's highly performant. It's just direct. I am blown by this work. I am absolutely blown away. I cannot. It is amazing work. And if you just add a little bit of external data to it, it gets even better. So
Doug, I just want to say, I think I've been away from Office Friday for 3-4 weeks, maybe. We didn't do it last week, and I think I had a couple weeks before that I hadn't done. This was good for my soul this week. So I just want to say I hope everyone is staying healthy, and I look forward to doing this again next week, and hopefully we'll get back to seeing other humans soon. But for now, I hope you have a lovely day, and I hope everyone else does too.
Yep, and again, I'll show off the steps. I'll either record it or show it next week, the steps to incorporate the IP geo data into this. So next week, we'll assume you've downloaded the kit, done the connector, and you've downloaded the free version of the IP2 location, and we'll walk through those steps and show you how to build a geo-aware ISP data-driven dashboard. So we're going to continue this call quality journey and make sure you get all the way to done. So if you don't have time this week, save this slot next week, and we'll go through it with you.
That sounds amazing. All right. Well, cheers, everybody.
Good to see you as always. Yep. Be safe out there, everyone. And now I don't have a producer anymore, so I was gonna be like, "Thanks for ending the I was gonna stare, but I have to end the broadcast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You have to click the button. Oh no.
I have to click the button. See, Emily does, and you notice there were no screen cuts this time, back and forth and everything else, because that's what Emily is normally this amazing producer for us, and we truly miss her ability to coordinate things, doing it all ourselves, man.
Like, I got my baseball cap and unshaven face, but who cares? We're all being humans here. So.
Did you shower?
I did. Yes, that was TMI. Yeah. Anyway.
Exactly. All right. Everyone, be good. See ya.
Cheers.
Bye.